Very good afternoon, dear students. I, Dr. Kunjal Lotwala, welcome you all on behalf of Agarwal Vidyavihar English Medium College in the session of written and spoken communication. In last lecture, I have started with the prose, The Grammar of Anarchy, which is written by B.R. Ambedkar. This is basically an abstract portion of the speech delivered by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar on 25th November 1949, a day before the Constitution was formally adopted by the Constituent Assembly. So, I have discussed with the first paragraph of the text, where I have discussed that he is pondering over the idea that we are getting independence on 26 January 1950. So he is pondering that India will maintain her independence or will she lose it again? And he is pondering very logically in the essay that this is not the first time we are getting independence, that we were not independent earlier. We were independent, but we lost it. And this is how we save our independence. So, moving ahead with the second paragraph, he is mentioning that on the 26th of January 1950, India would be a democratic country, in the sense that India from that day would have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The same thought comes to my mind. What would happen to her democratic constitution? So, on 26 January 1950, India would be democratic country. Then, what is the meaning of democracy? He is giving the idea also that India from that day onwards, means 26 January 1950 onwards, India would have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The same thought comes to my mind, that what would happen to her democratic constitution? Then what would happen to this democracy? Will she be able to maintain it or will she lose it again? So earlier in first paragraph, he asked the question that will India be able to maintain the independence or will she lose it again? The same way with the question he is asking that what do you think? Will she able to maintain the democracy also? So this is the second thought that comes to his mind. So this is the second thought that come to my mind and makes me an anxious as the first. So the way first thought that made me anxious, the second thought also made me anxious, because in first thought he said that will India be able to maintain the independence or will it lose again? The same way will second question is, will she able to maintain the democracy or will she lose it again? So now he is justifying this thing, why he is questioning on these two questions. So it is not that, in third paragraph he is telling, it is not that India did not know what democracy is. So it is not that India doesn't know the meaning of democracy or how to implement it, because he is justifying this with giving a kind of proper logical example, that there was a time when India was studded with republics. Studded means decorated with the republics. So earlier time when Britishers have been established their colony, before that the India had their India was studded with republics, and even where there were monarchies, though there were monarchies means kingdoms, they were either elected or limited. So they were either elected or limited. So the less scope was there. So they were never absolute. So free from any kind of limitations. There were also kind of limitations prevailing in earlier India. So it is not that India did not know parliaments or parliamentary procedure. So it's not like that India doesn't know about what is the process, what is the practicality of the parliaments. A study of Buddhist bhikshu sanghas discloses that not only were there parliaments for the sanghs were nothing but parliaments, but the sanghs knew and observed all the rules of parliamentary procedure known to modern times. So this Buddhist bhikshu sanghs, they discloses that they were aware about the parliamentary system, and they were nothing but the parliamentaries only. And the sanghs knew and they have observed all kind of rules of parliamentary procedure. So that's how, although these rules of parliamentary procedure were applied by the Buddha to the meetings of the sanghs, he must also borrow them from the rules of the political assemblies functioning in the country in his time. So this is what one can observe in ancient India also, while the Buddhist monarchy, these sanghs were prevailing at that point of time, at that period of time. He must be borrowed them from the rules of political assemblies and functioning in the country in this time. So it's not like that India is unaware about the parliamentary system and all such things, this implementation and all rules and regularities of the parliamentary system. Ancient India during Buddhist period, they have observed it, they have implemented it, and they have aware about all such things. So these democratic, so in the next paragraph, he is simplifying this thing. So earlier in the first paragraph, he is asking the question, he is pondering or he is anxious about two things. First, that is regarding independence of India, and second, that is regarding democracy of India. That both the things will be survived in this country or it will lose it again. And then secondly, he is telling that it is not like that India has not observed or India is unaware about the parliamentary practices. But in ancient India during Buddhist period of time, at that point of time also people were implementing it and people were well aware about all such practices. So the democratic system, next he is telling, he is arguing rather and questioning also with a proper set of mind that this democratic system India lost. So earlier also this democratic system were there, this parliamentary system was there, and then what was happened? The democratic system India lost. Will she lose it a second time? So what do you think? Will she lose it second time? Because once it has happened, so do you think that history will repeat again? I do not know, but it is quite possible in a country like India, because India is a country with diversity. So it may be possible again also. So where democracy from its long disuse must be regarded as something quite new, and there is a danger of democracy giving place to dictatorship. So it may be possible that if we will lose our democracy, then this democracy will be taken place by the dictatorship. Dictatorship means totalitarian leader or a boss or an authority figure. So it is quite possible for this newborn democracy to retain its form but give place to dictatorship in fact. So it is quite possible that if we lose our democracy, our all such things, then we will be in the hand of a kind of dictator or a totalitarian leader. If there is a landslide, if there is a danger, a disaster may happen, then the danger of the second possibility became an actuality in real greater. So he is suggesting that, or he is mentioning thoroughly that if we will not rescue this democracy, or if we will not take care of the democracy, then what will happen? The second thing will happen. If disaster may occur, then what will happen? That second thing became the actuality. What the second thing is all about? That is totalitarian leader. That dictatorship will occur. Then he is in the next paragraph telling, if we wish to maintain democracy, not merely in form, but also in fact, what must we do? So the first thing in my judgment we must do is to hold fast to constitutional methods of achieving our social and economic objectives. So how can we save our democracy? So he's telling that what form in fact we should follow. So he's telling that we need to hold fast to constitutional methods of achieving our social and economic objectives. So what are the social and economic objectives? He is giving 3 points here. So he is telling that it means we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. So he is telling that first of all we need to abandon, we need to keep aside the bloody method of revolution. What kind of revolution? That is political revolution, political upheaval, that in a government by great change is occurring. So certain kind of changes that occurring in politics, that we need not to do it. So we need not to experiment or change certain things or methods in the politics. So he is giving the first point here. Then, and he is elaborating this first point. So it means that we must abandon the method of civil disobedience. So first of all, we need to abandon the method of civil disobedience, non-cooperation, and satyagraha. This is what the principles given by the Gandhiji. So he is not against the Gandhiji, but the principle that he has established, and he is giving the reason also why he is against this. So Dandi March, which all these things are related to the Dandi March and whatever he has done. So when there was no way left for constitutional methods, so he's telling that these all such methods are unconstitutional methods. Which methods? The civil disobedience, non-cooperation, and satyagraha movement. All these things are not the part of constitutional methods. Rather, these all things are considered as unconstitutional methods. And how can you establish unconstitutional method in the constitution? So that's why he is telling that it means that we must abandon the method of civil disobedience, non-cooperation, and satyagraha when there was no way left for constitutional methods for achieving economic and social objectives. There was a great deal of justification for unconstitutional methods. So there is nothing left for us to justify constitutional methods, and that's how we are using and following unconstitutional methods like this civil disobedience, non-cooperation, and satyagraha. These are revolutionary methods, which is changing the political scenario, and it is derailing the other politics. So, but where constitutional methods are open, there can be no justification for these unconstitutional methods. Where constitutional methods are really open, then you should not go for unconstitutional methods. So these methods are nothing but the grammar of anarchy. So these things are nothing but the grammar of anarchy, degradation of the non-recognition of authority. So this is what he is telling, that this is what the act of grammar of anarchy, and the sooner they are abandoned, the better for us. So we need to abandon such things which will be the better for us. So this is one point that he is making, that we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. The first point he is making clear, that how to survive or how to save our democracy, our independence. Then he is making the second point, where he is mentioning that the second thing we must do is observe the caution which John Stuart Mill has given to all who are interested in the maintenance of democracy. So second point he is making clear with the citing the John Stuart Mill, who has mentioned regarding democracy, who said that, namely, not to lie their liberties at the feet of even a great man, or to trust him, with power which enables him to subvert their institution. So he's making the point that one should not follow any kind of particular individual leader. So he's telling that one should not follow a kind of person or hero worship. One should not do it. So not to lie their liberties at the feet of even a great man. We should not put our liberties at the feet of a great man or to trust him. If you follow him, means if you find that the person is greater, then okay, you should appreciate it, but you should not blindly follow that person, that whatever he is telling, that is right only. You cannot make him a god. He may be godlike, he may be God, but he is not God, right? So he is telling that you should not trust him with the power which enables him to subvert. Subvert means corrupt. If you will put lots of trust, or if you will follow him blindly, then it may be possible that the person will corrupt their institution. So this is what he is making the point while citing this John Stuart Mill in the second point. So first point, he has made it clear with this, that how to save our democracy. So first he is making the point that we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. Secondly, he is telling that there is nothing wrong in being grateful to a great man who have rendered lifelong services to the country, but there was limits of gratefulness also. So one should not follow blindly the great person, or hero worship should not be done. So second point is this. So if the great man is there, if you are worshipping that gratefulness, okay, till that it is fine, but you should not follow that person blindly, because the greatness has also its limit. After all, he is a person, he is not a god. So that's why there are limits of gratefulness. So this caution is far more necessary in the case of India than in the case of any other country. Why in India? Because you know that India is a religious country also, and how people are blindly following in religion. They follow certain babas, they follow certain people as if they are God only. So blind belief, superstition is also prevailing in this India. So that's why he's telling that no, it is must needed in this country, India, rather any other country. So for in India, bhakti, or what may be called the path of devotion or hero worship, plays a part in its politics, unequaled in magnitude by the part it plays in the politics of any other country in the world. So how bhakti and politics are somewhere merging, and that as a result of it, in politics also people are finding that bhakti, and they are not keeping aloof this bhakti and politics, and that's how it has created corruption in the country. So that's why the country like India should be aware about all such things. So bhakti in religion may be a road to the salvation of soul. So bhakti, basically why bhakti is needed, because bhakti is in religion is the path to get the salvation, moksha. But in politics, bhakti or hero worship is a sure road to degradation and eventually dictatorship. And if bhakti can be established, or if bhakti can be mingled with the politics, then what will happen? That it became the hero worship, and these hero worship may lead, although it is sure that it is the road to degradation. It will degrade the political scenario, or it will create not the democracy, but it will create the dictatorship. So second disaster that he talked about, that if democracy will be no more, then what will happen? That dictatorship will be established. So this is what he is mentioning in this paragraph. So second point, I think you are clear with it. So in first point, to save the democracy, he is telling that the danger of democracy give place to dictatorship, and if you won't get that dictatorship, if you want to maintain the democracy, what one should do? Firstly, we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. So the changes in politics the unconstitutional methods that we should not follow. We should follow the constitutional methods only. Secondly, he is making the point that hero worship is suitable in bhakti, not in politics. So it will, in bhakti, it will lead you to the salvation, but hero worship in politics will lead you to the dictatorship. So this is what he is mentioning in the second point. Now, moving ahead with the third point. See, I would like to repeat it again after third point, that what I am discussing, so that it will be feasible for you to understand the things. So the third point, the third thing we must do is not to content with mere political democracy. We must make our political democracy a social democracy as well. So he is telling that politically, if we are gaining the democracy, it doesn't mean that we are getting democracy in every strata of our life. No, it's not that. So to get the political democracy, one should get a social democracy as well. That political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it social democracy, because in the base you should have the social democracy, then and then you can acquire political democracy. So what does social democracy means? So that he is making the point, his point clear, that what I am supposed to talk about this social democracy. So he is clarifying this thing, that it means social democracy means a way of life which recognizes liberty, equality, and fraternity as the principle of life. So he is making the point that to achieve the political democracy, one has to achieve, first of all, in the foundation of political democracy, one should achieve the political social democracy. Then he is making the point that what is the meaning of social democracy then he is giving the proper term that one should follow the liberty, equality, and fraternity. This trinity one has to follow. What? That is liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty means free from all the control. Then equality means without differences, any kind of differences or distances. And the fraternity means brotherhood. So these three things go together, right? So this is what he's telling, that what is the meaning of social democracy. Social democracy means where you are getting the free, when a person is finding the liberty socially, so free from the control, all the control. Then equality, without any differences, means individual varies, and this is what one has to accept it. So one should accept the differences, right? And then fraternity means brotherhood as the principle of the life. And these principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity are not to be treated as separate items in a trinity. So these three things are together. It's like trident. And this trinity, you cannot bifurcate, or you cannot separate it. Why you cannot separate it? Because these three things go together. If one is not there, then one cannot achieve the social democracy, right? So one should achieve the social democracy with these three things together. What is it? That liberty, equality, and fraternity. So this principle of liberty, equality, and fraternity are not to be treated as separate, but together. So they form a union of trinity, in the sense that to divorce one from the other is to defeat the very purpose of the democracy. If you are making one separate out of these three, then also you are leading towards the defeated, you are leading towards the defeat of this democracy. So to save the democracy, you have to follow these three things together. You cannot separate one thing. So liberty cannot be divorced from equality, and equality cannot be divorced from liberty, nor can liberty and equality be divorced from the fraternity. So you cannot separate liberty from equality. You cannot separate equality from the liberty, and you cannot separate liberty and equality from the fraternity, because these three things go together. So without equality, liberty would produce the supremacy of the few over the many. So without equality, without liberty would produce. So if equality and liberty is not there, then supremacy will be produced, and then supremacy of few over many will leads towards the defeat of democracy. So equality without liberty will kill the individual initiative. So if equality has been given without liberty, then what will happen? That individual won't speak. They will be unheard. So they won't be able to express their own idea. So equality without liberty is useless. Then without fraternity, liberty and equality could not become a natural course of things. So without fraternity, if brotherhood is not there, then liberty and equality will spoil the social democracy, which is not a natural course of things. And it would require a constable to enforce them. And we must begin by acknowledging the fact that there is complete absence of two things in Indian society. And we must be acknowledging this thing, that we are not having these three things together at social democratic ground. So one of these is equality. One of the social plane, that we are not having equality in India. Why? Because we all are diverse, and as earlier also he has mentioned that we believe in caste system, in creed and all such things, and as a result of it, what is happening? We are discriminating. So how we are divided? We are divided due to this caste and creed system. So this is what he is mentioning here, that equality is not there. So that's why the social democracy is yet to maintain by the Indian people. So on the social plane, we have in India a society based on the principle of graded inequality, in which there are some who have immense wealth as against many who lived in the abject poverty. Abject means terrible poverty. So class system is there, caste system is there, creed is there, and due to it, how we are unequal. And this is what creating hindrance on the part of social democracy. So this is what he is mentioning in these 3 points. So I would like to revise this speech again, because moving ahead with the other point, I would like to make it sure that you should understand his argument, that how he is convincing reader and speaker that whatever points that he is making, he is giving with the example and proper questions. So in the very beginning, first of all, he is making the reader or the listener think about that while asking the question, that he is asking that whether we'll be able to maintain our independence in future, because in past we didn't. Then he is asking the question that whether we'll be able to maintain our democracy also, because in past we were failed to do so, because we had earlier this parliamentary system, its practice, and then we couldn't even save it. Then it's not like that we are unaware about the parliamentary system and all process, but then also we failed to do so. Then he is making 2-3 points clear, that because this is the second time, what we need to learn from the history. Rather to repeat history, one has to learn from the history, so that history cannot be repeated. But this is the points that he is making it clear, that what we should not do, that we had done earlier. So if we wish to maintain the democracy, first of all, we must abandon the bloody methods of revolution. That all these unconstitutional methods that we have already practiced in our past, we need not to do it again. So this is what he is making, that We need to follow the constitutional methods, rather unconstitutional methods, and we need to abandon the bloody methods of revolution. So political changes that we need to abandon. So this is the first point, he is making it clear. Second point, he is making it clear that to lie there, no, second point, while quoting the John Stuart Mill, he is making the point that we should do away with the hero worship, because hero worship is good in bhakti or religion set, but it is not proper or appropriate in politics, because we will end up in hero worship, and in hero worship definitely it will lead us to the this dictatorship, which is the end of the democracy. So this is what he is making clear, that we are no eventually giving power to that person, and who may corrupt the whole constitution also. So this is what he is telling. After all, that person has its greatness, that is fine, you should appreciate it, but you should not blindly follow the greatness of that person, right? So this is what he is making the point in this second point. Now at the end, third point, he has mentioned this thing, that one should follow to get, one should gain the political democracy on the basis of the political democracy, social democracy. So what is the meaning of social democracy? That this social democracy means liberty, equality, and fraternity. So these three things go together. You cannot separate one element from the other. So that is what he's making point, that liberty cannot be separated by the equality and fraternity. Equality cannot be separated from liberty and fraternity cannot be separated from this liberty and equality. So these 3 points are clear in your part. This is what I am thinking. Then later on in the whole speech, he is elaborating why it cannot be separated. So he is telling that these 3 things should be there to create the social democracy. And he is making the point that in India, social democracy is yet to gain, because we are not having the equality, because we have class system, caste system, and creed system, and as a result of it, we are not finding any individual equal, because we are not accepting it. So equality should be gained to establish this social democracy. Then and then we can establish the political democracy. Otherwise, without social democracy, if we will gain the political democracy, then what will happen? The constitution and democracy will be hollow. It is useless. It is worthless. So this is what he is making the point till now. I hope it is clear till now. Remaining portion I'll discuss in the next lecture. Thank you.